Commander Alara Miles adjusted the settings on her console aboard the Council station, her eyes flickering over the data streaming across the screen. As Earth's representative, her role was typically filled with mundane trade negotiations and policy discussions, but today was different. Today, she had intercepted something that could alter the course of human history. Alara leaned back, rubbing the bridge of her nose, feeling the weight of her discovery. She replayed the encrypted transmission she'd stumbled upon, a secret communication between a high-ranking council official and the Zeltran military. It detailed a covert agreement to divert Earth's resources to Zeltran territories, with promises of hefty profits disguised as aid. "This can't be right," Alara muttered, staring into the dark void of space through the observation deck. "They promised to protect us." Her thoughts were interrupted by the soft chime of the communication panel. It was Caden, her trusted advisor and an old friend from the military academy. "Alara, you called for me?" "Yes, Caden, close the door," Alara said, motioning him forward. Once they were alone, she showed him the intercepted message. Caden's eyes widened as he read. "Betrayal? This can't be," he said, handing back the tablet. "It's all there. Clear as the Andromeda outside that window. They've been using us, Caden." All this time, Alara's voice broke with a mix of anger and disbelief. Caden paced the small room, his hands clasped behind his back. "What are you going to do?" Alara's jaw set firmly. "I'm going to expose them. All of them. This ends now. Alara, think about this. It's your word against the Council's. We need solid proof, or it could mean war," Caden cautioned, his expression grave. "I know," Alara replied, her mind racing. "And I'll get it. Help me, Caden. Help me save Earth." Over the next few days, Alara and Caden worked in secret, contacting other species within the Council whom they suspected had been wronged. They used clandestine meetings and encrypted messages to form a fragile alliance based on shared grievances and mutual distrust. During one such meeting, in a dimly lit cargo hold, Alara met with representatives from 3 different species, the Turellians, the Nyx, and the Virans. Each shared stories of exploitation and broken promises, their voices a chorus of disillusionment. "Commander Miles, while we sympathize with Earth's plight, what you propose is exceedingly dangerous," hissed Scylla, the Turellian ambassador, her forked tongue flickering with each syllable. "I know it is. But think about what's at stake. Not just for Earth, but for all our worlds," Alara countered, her voice firm yet pleading. "Together, we can bring this to light. Together, we can force change." Moreau, the Viren representative, a creature of shadow and mist, swirled in contemplation. "And if you're wrong, Commander, it will be the end of your species' tenure on the Council. Possibly, the beginning of hostilities." "I'm not wrong," Alara said, her eyes burning with conviction. She pulled out a device and tapped a few commands, projecting additional evidence of the Council's duplicity. The group leaned in, their eyes scanning the holographic displays, showing diverted shipments, falsified reports, and laundered payments. The proof was irrefutable. "This changes everything," murmured Nyx, the Nyx ambassador, his voice a low growl. "We will support you, Commander Miles. It's time these secrets were dragged into the light." With a newfound coalition, Alara planned the next steps. They would need more than just clandestine support, they needed a stage, a moment when all members of the Council were present. The upcoming assembly provided the perfect opportunity. Days passed as tensions rose. The station buzzed with rumors and whispers of a shift in power dynamics. Alara, now more determined than ever, prepared her speech for the assembly. It was a call to arms, a plea for justice, and a declaration of humanity's refusal to be subjugated. Finally, the day of the assembly arrived. The Great Hall was filled with representatives from across the galaxy, their varied forms casting a multitude of shadows on the ornate floor. As Alara stepped up to the podium, a hush fell over the crowd. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," Alara began, her voice echoing through the silence, "we gather here under the banner of unity and mutual prosperity. but I stand before you today to reveal a truth that betrays these noble ideals." She paused, scanning the room, meeting the eyes of both allies and foes. For too long, Earth has been exploited, lied to, and robbed under the guise of assistance. We have been betrayed not by enemies, but by those we considered our protectors and partners. Murmurs rippled through the assembly as Alara continued, detailing the conspiracy with precise clarity. She presented the evidence, each piece more damning than the last. Screens around the room displayed the intercepted communications, the financial records, the covert agreements, all laid bare for the universe to see. As she concluded, Alara's voice was steady, her resolve unwavering. "I ask you now, members of the Council, where do we stand? With the corrupt few, or with the many who dream of a truly united galaxy?" The room erupted into chaos, with voices raised in shock, anger, and support. Amid the turmoil, Alara stood firm, her eyes alight with the fire of justice. Today, she had struck a blow for humanity, and for all species oppressed by hidden chains. Today was just the beginning, and the path ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but Alara Miles was ready to lead the charge. In this moment, humanity had indeed said, "Enough." Alara Miles stood before the holographic screen in her quarters, reviewing the encrypted data streams once more. Caden watched silently from the side, understanding the magnitude of what they were about to undertake. Every alliance, every piece of evidence added to the precarious balance they were trying to maintain. "Are you sure about this?" Caden asked, breaking the silence. His concern was palpable. "We've gone too far to turn back now," Alara responded without taking her eyes off the screen. "We need to move quickly, gather more support. It's the only way." The next few days were a blur of covert communications and secretive meetings. Alara met with Ambassador Sila in the botanical gardens of the station, under the guise of a casual stroll. The lush greenery provided a stark contrast to their grave discussion. "Commander Miles, I must admit, your evidence was compelling," Sila said, her voice low. "The Terrellian Assembly is inclined to support you. But we require a guarantee of safety and benefit." Alara nodded, understanding the stakes. "I assure you, Ambassador, our coalition will not only strive for transparency but will also ensure that all our members are protected and stand to benefit from a restructured council." Satisfied, Sila slithered away, blending into the shadows cast by the towering ferns. Alara's next meeting was with Moreau, who preferred the dimly lit corridors of the lower decks, away from prying eyes. "Commander, my people are cautious. We have survived by not stepping into the light too often," Miro's voice echoed slightly, a wisp of his form appearing then fading. "I'm not asking you to step into the light alone, Moreau. We do this together," Alara replied, her voice firm, yet reassuring. "We need your strategic mind and your people's expertise in stealth." Moreau considered this for a long moment before nodding slowly. "Very well, Commander. The Virans will support your cause." With each new ally, Alara felt the tide beginning to turn. However, each meeting, each promise of support came with its own risks and conditions. It was a complex web of politics and promises that she navigated with Caden's unwavering assistance. As the day of the assembly approached, tension on the station reached a fever pitch. Rumors of a major shakeup within the council had spread like wildfire. Alara spent her nights reviewing speeches, refining her strategy, and preparing for every possible outcome. Finally, the day arrived. The assembly hall was packed with representatives from across the galaxy, buzzing with anticipation and anxiety. Alara stood at the back, waiting for her moment, her heart pounding in her chest. Caden approached, handing her a final piece of evidence, a decrypted message directly implicating the Council's leadership in the exploitation scheme. "This just came in." "It's irrefutable," he whispered, placing a small data chip in her hand. Alara clenched the chip tightly, feeling its weight. "Thank you, Caden. It's time." As she was called to the stage, Alara felt the eyes of the galaxy upon her. She stepped up to the podium, the massive room falling silent in anticipation. She inserted the data chip, and the screens around the hall flickered to life, displaying the decrypted messages for all to see. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, what I am about to reveal will shake the foundations of our union, Alara began, her voice echoing through the hall. We have been betrayed by those we trusted most. She methodically laid out the evidence, each piece more damning than the last. Murmurs turned to gasps and then to angry shouts as the full extent of the betrayal was revealed. Alara continued, this is not merely a betrayal of Earth but of every member species who believed in the Council's promise of equity and protection. We must take a stand, not just for ourselves, but for the principles upon which our Council was founded. As she spoke, Alara could see the shift in the room. Eyes that had once looked upon her with skepticism now burned with the fire of understanding and support. Even those who had doubted her couldn't ignore the stark reality of the evidence displayed before them. She concluded, today, we have an opportunity to correct the course of our history. We can choose to be the leaders who stood up against corruption and deceit. Let us reclaim the integrity of our council and ensure that no member species is ever exploited again. The assembly erupted into applause, some standing, others shouting words of support. Alara stepped down from the podium, her heart light with the burden of her task now shared with many. Caden met her at the edge of the stage, a smile breaking across his face. You did it, Alara. Alara looked around at the faces of her newfound allies, their expressions a mix of resolve and admiration. We did it, Caden. But this is just the beginning. Now comes the hard part, ensuring our words turn into action. As the assembly adjourned, groups formed, discussions sparking across the room. Plans were made, strategies formed, and a new chapter for the Galactic Council began, led by a human who had dared to reveal the truth and a coalition ready to uphold it. The path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but for the first time in a long time, Alara was confident that they were on the right path. The path to justice and true unity. The assembly hall was in disarray following Alara's revelations. Whispers filled the air as representatives from countless worlds processed the staggering evidence of corruption that had just been laid bare. Alara, standing just off the central podium, knew this was only the beginning. She had lit the fuse, but the real work, forging a path forward, was still ahead. Caden joined her, his face etched with both admiration and concern. You've set the galaxy ablaze, Alara. What's our next move? We hold them accountable, Caden. Every last one of them, Alara replied, her gaze fixed on the bustling crowd. We start by solidifying our allies. We can't let the council regroup and bury this. Moving through the crowd, Alara approached several of her newly formed allies, each representing their species with their own grievances and fears. First, she spoke with Ambassador Scylla, whose scaly countenance barely concealed her agitation. A strong move, Commander Miles, Scylla hissed softly. The Terrellians are with you, but we must act swiftly. My government will not tolerate a prolonged conflict. Alara nodded. I agree, Ambassador. We'll push for immediate reforms. A new governance charter, perhaps, one that ensures transparency and equal representation. Her next conversation was with Moreau, whose ethereal form shimmered slightly as they spoke. Commander, the Varens are adept at remaining unseen, but we will support your efforts in the shadows. What do you need from us? Information, Moreau. We need to keep tabs on those who might want to silence this movement. Can you handle that? Consider it done, Moreau replied, fading back into the crowd. Alara's final ally in the immediate vicinity was Nyx, whose imposing figure towered over most in the room. His deep voice rumbled as they talked. The Nyx will guard the proceedings. No harm will come to those who stand for justice under our watch. Thank you, Nyx. I feel safer knowing you're with us, Alara said, feeling a momentary sense of relief in the storm. As the assembly called for a recess, whispers turned to debates, and debates turned to arguments. Alara knew she had to maintain control of the narrative. She convened an impromptu meeting with all her allies, gathering them in a secluded conference room. Thank you all for your swift support, Alara began, her eyes scanning the room. But we must move quickly. The council will try to discredit what we've done here today. We need a plan that enforces new checks and balances within this council. Discussions ensued, with various leaders proposing their ideas and concerns. A Viren strategist suggested an oversight body that could audit council decisions. A Terrellian legal expert offered to draft new legal frameworks that would prevent any single species from amassing too much power. As they strategized, an urgent message arrived from one of Miro's informants. Certain council members were plotting to declare the evidence fabricated, aiming to sway the undecided representatives. Elara clenched her fists, her resolve hardening. We can't let them undermine the truth. Caden, organize a press briefing. We'll go public with everything. The more eyes we have on this, the better. Caden nodded and quickly left to arrange the briefing. Meanwhile, Elara addressed the group. We need to be united in this. If we show division, they'll tear us apart. The meeting ended with a unified plan. They would introduce a resolution the next day, calling for immediate elections for a new council leadership under revised rules. The rest of the evening was spent in preparation, drafting the resolution, and rallying support from other representatives. The next morning, Elara stood before the assembly again, the press of numerous worlds broadcasting her every word. She presented their resolution with clarity and conviction, calling for an end to the secrecy and manipulation that had plagued the council. This is our chance to redefine what this council stands for, Elara declared, her voice echoing through the chamber. Let us show the galaxy that we are not only leaders but guardians of justice and democracy. The vote was tense, with representatives casting their ballots under the watchful eyes of the galaxy. The resolution passed, but only by a slim margin. It was enough to begin the process of change, but Elara knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. As the assembly adjourned, Elara felt a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. She had done more than expose a conspiracy, she had sparked a movement for change across the galaxy. Caden approached, a small smile playing on his lips. You did it, Elara. You really did it. Elara allowed herself a moment to soak in the victory. We did it, Caden. And we'll keep doing it until we're sure nothing like this can ever happen again. As they left the assembly hall, the weight of her responsibility was clear, but so was her commitment. Elara Miles would not rest until the council, and through it, the galaxy, reflected the principles she had fought so hard to defend. The battle was won, but the war for justice was just beginning. After the resolution passed, Elara and her allies worked tirelessly to lay the groundwork for the new governance structure they envisioned. With the universe watching closely, each move they made was crucial to the success of their vision for a reformed council that represented fairness and transparency. Elara convened with her closest advisors in a secure location, where they could discuss the steps ahead without the threat of interference. The old council played with shadowed hands. Elara addressed the group. We need to be the light that dispels those shadows. Transparency is paramount, Caden agreed, pulling up a digital blueprint of their proposed governance structure. We propose the establishment of an integrity oversight committee, staffed with representatives from each member species, to monitor all council activities and ensure compliance with our new ethical standards. The group nodded in agreement, but Sila raised a concern. Ensuring that no species dominates the committee will be challenging. We need a system that promotes balance. Miro, your people are skilled in data analysis. Could you devise an algorithm that ensures equitable representation? Elara asked, turning to the Viren, whose form flickered lightly in the dim light. Yes, Commander. We can create a selection process that is both random and weighted based on population, contribution, and historical representation, Miro responded, his voice resonant even in his ethereal form. With a plan taking shape, Elara's next step was to address the Assembly and the galaxy at large. Broadcast to every corner of known space, her speech needed to outline the path forward not just in words, but in actionable commitments. As the assembly gathered, a palpable sense of anticipation filled the air. Representatives from every species, some of whom had been skeptical of the change, now looked to Elara for direction. She stepped up to the podium, the galaxy waiting on her words. Today marks a new era for the Galactic Council, Elara began, her voice steady and confident. We have been given a mandate for change, a call to rise above the failures of the past and forge a future built on the bedrock of integrity and justice. She outlined the new measures, including the establishment of the Integrity Oversight Committee and the implementation of Miro's algorithm for fair representation. "This is your council," she declared, "accountable to all, not just a powerful few." The response was overwhelmingly positive. The vision Alara laid out sparked hope and a renewed sense of unity among the diverse species of the galaxy. However, not all were pleased. Whispers of dissent grew among those who had benefited from the old system, plotting in the shadows to undermine the new order. Aware of the brewing discontent, Alara and her security team, led by Nyx, increased their vigilance. "We must be proactive in rooting out corruption, not just reactive," Nyx advised during a security briefing. The first test of the new system came sooner than expected. An attempt was made to bribe a member of the Oversight Committee. Thanks to the vigilance of the committee and Nyx's security protocols, the attempt was not only thwarted but made public. Alara addressed this incident directly in a widely broadcast message, praising the committee's integrity and the swift action taken. "Let this be a clear message: the era of corruption and secrecy is over. We will not waver in our commitment to transparency and justice," she proclaimed, reinforcing the strength and resolve of the new council. As weeks turned into months, the changes began to take root. The Oversight Committee became a symbol of the new era, its actions and decisions open for the public to see. Elections were held under the new system, bringing in fresh faces and ideas, gradually transforming the council into the vision Alara had fought so hard for. Through all these changes, Alara remained a pillar of strength and a beacon of hope. Her leadership inspired not just political change but a cultural shift throughout the galaxy. Caden, standing beside her as they watched the council in session from the gallery above, spoke with a hint of awe in his voice. "You've really done it, Alara. You've changed the face of the galaxy." Alara watched the representatives debate passionately but respectfully, a far cry from the manipulation and coercion of the past. "We've done it, Caden," she corrected him softly, a satisfied smile curving her lips. "And we'll keep doing it, ensuring this council represents the best of what we can be." As the session below wrapped up, representatives from different worlds mingled, their conversations filled with optimism and collaborative plans. The council had become a true assembly of equals, each voice valued, each perspective considered. Alara turned to leave, her heart full. The road had been long and fraught with challenges, but as she looked back at the council chamber, filled with laughter and lively discussion, she knew every struggle had been worth it. The council was no longer a place of betrayal and shadows but a shining example of what could be achieved when species from across the galaxy truly worked together for the common good.